On July 20th, after our visit to Cluny, we returned to the Viking Europe, docked at Chalon-sur-Saône, once a busy port, acting as a distribution point for local wines, which were sent up and down the Saône River, and the Canal du Centre opened in 1792. From the top deck of the Viking Europe, we enjoyed the view of Ile Saint-Laurent, known to be the restaurant island. On one end of the island we could see the brick tower called Tour du Doyenné. This tower was originally built in the 15th century. However, the tower was rebuilt on its actual place only after World War I. The tower was originally situated next to the cathedral. In view the modern Pont Saint-Laurent that captures the flavor of a traditional arched bridge. It connects the town center with the small island. World War I memorial dedicated in 1926 and sculpted by Alfred Rochette. The Gambetta dock area is adorned by colorful flower beds and pretty flower baskets. By 2 in the afternoon we were back in the bus for another shore excursion, this time to Beaune, with a walking tour, the visit to the museum Hôtel-Dieu, and an included wine tasting. Statue of Nicéphore Niepce, a French inventor most noted as one of the inventors of photography. Monument to Benjamin Baillot, a French astronomer. Obelisk honoring Émile Gauthey, a French civil engineer and architect in the Age of Enlightenment. Monument honoring the defense of Chalon-sur-Saône in 1814. Beautiful landscaping as we rode from Chalon-sur-Saône to Beaune. Our first stop was to visit the Museum of Fine Arts in Beaune, nestled in the heart of the Porte Marie de Bourgogne building. Founded in 1871, the museum was housed in the town hall. In 2002, it was transferred to this imposing building, purchased by the city in 1996. major works of the museum are the Flemish and Dutch paintings of the 16th and 17th centuries. Unfortunately, photography was not allowed, so I have just captured pictures of the 17th century 4 allegories of velvet Bruegel. Water, fire, earth, and air. So we finally made it to Museum Hôtel-Dieu in Beaune, with its Gothic facades, glazed roofs, and colorful geometric figures, part of the Hospices de Beaune, a charitable institution established by Nicolas Rollin, Chancellor of the Duke of Burgundy, and his wife Guigon Salins in 1443. A UNESCO World Heritage Site, the building along with its rooms, wine cellars and collection of objects, furniture and tapestries, is a spectacular example of architecture from the Middle Ages. The piece of resistance is the 15th century altarpiece, a polyptych of the Last Judgment, by Roger van de Weyden, which I will save for last in this report. With a rectangular format, the courtyard is the best location to admire the different buildings, amongst which 3 are decorated with a glazed tile roof. This technique has probably its origins in Central Europe, possibly from ceramics masters from Hungary, but became quickly a landmark of the architecture from Burgundy. These tiles have 4 colors: red, brown, yellow, and green, with interlaced designs. The current tiles have been recreated between 1902 and 1907. Many dormer and attic windows can be observed with finely detailed wood and iron works. Some of the buildings include a 2-level gallery with stone columns on the ground floor and wood beams on the first floor. The facade of the left wing, housing the Great Hall of the Poor, shows a more austere look. Since the original hospital building, the Hôtel-Dieu, one of the finest examples of French 15th century architecture, is now a museum, services for patients are now provided in modern hospital buildings. At each end of the roof On the Great Hall wing stand two sculptures, one of the Virgin Mary and the other one of Jesus. A well with Gothic ironwork can also be seen in the center of the courtyard. The entrance door to the Room of the Poor that measures 50 by 14 by 16 meters. On the ceiling, the visible painted frame is in an upside-down boat skiff shape, and in each beam are sculpted caricatures of some important Beaune inhabitants. On the floor tiles are written Nicholas Rolling's monogram and his motto, Seoul, referring to his wife, Guigon de Salines. The room is furnished with 2 rows of curtained beds. The central area was dedicated to benches and tables for the meals. Each bed could welcome 2 patients. The hospice received the first patient on 1st January 1452. Elderly, disabled and sick people, orphans, women about to give birth, and the destitute have all been uninterruptedly welcomed for treatment and refuge from the Middle Ages until today. Following the large ward is the chapel. The place for the chapel was chosen to allow the bedridden to attend Mass from their beds. The remains of Guigon Salines are buried here. In November 2010, the very first Catholic wedding since the construction of the building in 1443 was performed in this chapel. The wedding was between Mr. Alessandro Conti and Miss Natalie Cunard. The hospice possesses many artistic treasures, among them the mural paintings of the 17th century in Sala St. Hugues. Following are pictures of many interesting items on display in St. Nicholas' room. The model made out of straw from different angles. The portraits of the benefactors. The kitchen. The laboratory. The pharmacy. Beautiful tapestries in the St. Louis room. The story of Jacob. The Last Judgment, Polyptych by Roger van der Weyden, was commissioned by Nicolas Rollin in 1443. The altarpiece was intended for the chapel that stood at the end of the long hospital ward. The patients were to be able to see it across a partition. Opened out, every table shows the Last Judgment, a clear admonition to the sick to remember their own mortality and turn their minds to God. It is easily understandable, since the spiritual care of the sick was as important as their bodily care, and in the thinking of the time only those in a state of spiritual grace could be restored to health. The work consists of 15 panels, of which 9 are contained in the inner and 6 on the outer views. The inner and outer wings were cut apart so they could be shown together. Traditionally, the inner wings would only be displayed on selected Sundays or church holidays. Detail of Jesus Christ and the Archangel Michael in Judgment. The Archangel holds a scale and weighs souls. Detail of the dead rising from their graves. The 6 outer panels with the kneeling donors on either side. Then, after our visit to this amazing museum, we started our walk towards one of Beaune's famous cellars, not far from where we were, and of course Ove had to stop for his mid-afternoon snack. In historic Beaune, sampling a number of regional wines in one of its famous cellars is a must. The semi-continental climate of Burgundy is favorable for growing both red and white wines. Winters are long and cold enough to rest the vine. Spring is mild and wet, ideal growing conditions, whilst hot and dry summers help the grapes ripen. Perfect conditions for creating perfect wines.
Do you all have one glass? Telling you about Premier Cru and Grand Cru. So in Burgundy we have what we call the regional appellations, which is always with Bourgogne at the beginning of the name of the wine. Bourgogne Aligoté. Then if we have only Aligoté with the name of a little village, that will be a regional, local appellation. Local appellation. So down below we have regional, then local, and then we have Premier Cru and Grand Cru. So first top vintage and then great top vintage. These are the different levels in Burgundy. It's not all over France like that. Huh? For instance, in Bordeaux, we have...
After the nice wine tasting experience, we drove back to Chalon-sur-Saône. Then it was time to enjoy the delicious chef's dinner. Bon appetit!